Hello and welcome to the Josh and Tyler show. I am Josh. This is Tyler. This is our show. Today we're talking about, well, how about we talk to Tyler first? How are you, Tyler?
Oh, I'm doing just fine, thanks. How about you?
Oh, we watched a horror double feature, the 2019, the 2019s, as I'm going to call it. I actually had the opportunity to see both of these in theaters, but did not.
Same.
We had Blood Quantum and Random Acts. We'll jump to Blood Quantum first and then go to Random Acts. What did you think of this as a double feature?
Well, I gotta say, they not only have similar amounts of violence, but they also have very similar lighting techniques. I thought that there were a lot of similar, like very basic neon lighting. I don't know if that's becoming a Canadian thing, but looking at this, Random Acts and Possessor, and weirdly enough, Random Acts and Possessor had the same cinematographer, which I wouldn't have guessed because Possessor feels
Really?
it stands out a hell of a lot more because of Cronenberg's particular vision.
Oh.
And maybe because Jay Baruchel is still figuring out his style as a director, maybe that was what keeps those two apart. But yeah, sometimes you just can tell what crew member works on certain movies half the time.
Well, this is a Canadian horror double feature. We can't often say we can find two Canadian horror movies we haven't seen, because the only other one I can think of in the last few years is what you mentioned, Possessor.
Yeah, and a fucking great one at that too. That was a hell of an experience in the theater, because I spent like maybe an hour hopping from bus to bus just to get to the one theater that was playing nearby. And I don't live close to Sports World, so that was the huge problem.
You had to go down there. Okay.
Yeah, and that was the first time I had McDonald's in 2020, and the last time I've had it since. I can't believe I remember that. Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy, that experience must have been bad for the food anyway.
No, it was a change of pace. I love how salty and gross that shit is. I'm apparently one of the last few. I don't understand.
I love McDonald's. I go for the double fillet of fish because I ain't making fish sticks at home. It's something I can't make at my house. And then they also have a better coffee. When Tim Hortons got rid of their coffee and went 20.
Well, Josh, here's what you do. Here's what you do at home. You take them out of the box, you put them in the oven, and you wait 20 minutes.
I burnt fish sticks like 8 times in the last year. I can't cook a fish stick to save my life, but I could make you a stir fry right now without any problem in 10 minutes.
Does your wife have to do it for you? Honestly.
No, I just can't cook fish sticks. I follow the box instructions and they burn or they're undercooked, and then you put them in for longer. Fish sticks elude me.
I love that after I got let go from work, you offered me a place at your dinner table with some fancy shrimp dish, and I'm just like, yeah, no, thanks.
I can make a seafood chowder, but I can't make fish sticks.
Just to make Josh feel a lot better, I used to struggle with fucking grilled cheese for years.
Oh, I did that for a while too. I understand. That's a struggle.
It's the fucking timing, folks. Don't judge us.
I just I can't even make what was the one? I tried to make boxed mac and cheese the other day and I ruined it. That's a thing I did.
I don't even want to know the story, so don't bother. But
no, I left it. I let the pot. The cheese sauce just didn't adapt very well after I drained the water. I don't know what was happening.
Okay.
It didn't work.
But in any case, Josh and I decided to review Blood Quantum and Random Acts of Violence because this week is Canada Day. I have no idea if we're even going to put this up on Canada Day, but that would be interesting.
Well, what Canada? I could put it up on Canada Day. Do you want to? Yeah, done. It's going up on Canada Day.
Might as well.
Happy Canada Day, everybody.
See how good we are at preparation.
In order to talk about Canada Day, we have to talk about Blood Quantum. And Blood Quantum is a giant allegory about how the Aboriginal community is treated in Canada. But with
among other things. And the fact that last week's breaking news didn't exactly make the subject matter in this set any better, but
they made this movie.
That is true. This was made by Jeff Barnaby, who also made one that I think is called Rhymes with Young Ghouls, that specifically talks about the residential school. I think it's about a girl who is hunting down and killing in a vigilante style teachers from those schools as revenge. And I think the movie, much like this one, is about whether or not taking revenge is the same as obtaining justice for the atrocities. And honestly, the subject matter in Blood Quantum was among my favorite aspects of the movie. And I got to be honest, though, I didn't really have that good a time watching it. And a lot of it comes down to the craft on display, not the subject matter itself, because that was the stuff I dug the most.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the movie had some really great moments, but I do think it dragged at points. I think it just sort of slowed down as soon as it hit 6 months later, and then like here we are, and then
that was a very weird and abrupt way of doing things. When I heard about the plot synopsis, I thought we were going to like follow them day by day in the moment, and the time jump took a lot of. I know they were trying to build suspense out of it by saying, here's where they are now, take a wild guess how things operate. And that part was neat enough when they do the whole border patrol allegory. And that scene was decent enough because the characters do have legitimate complex questions and morals that they have to deal with when they're letting certain people in and out. And I gotta say, like, my favorite aspect of the movie was the way they addressed these themes. It was a breath of fresh air to see that the heroes and the villains of the movie, without spoiling anything, are actually members of the same community who simply disagree with whether or not letting in outsiders whose ancestors or anyone who looks like them that made their lives a living hell is actually worth it or not. Our heroes are so likable because they do their best to look at fellow survivors as individuals, not members of a group. They just have one common goal, to stay alive, and they'll only exclude people if they actually pose a legitimate threat of infecting or killing anyone. But the villains, on the other hand, have experienced so much pain and trauma, or at least enough in their minds to justify their horrible actions, that they can't let go of the pain. They drown their sorrows in alcohol and drugs at best, and at worst, they're actually willing to fucking kill their own people as a way to somehow prove to themselves that they're right, even though they're becoming just as hateful as the enemies they're out to get. It reminded me of Koba from Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, because the villain has a very similar motivation and a similar outlook. That one Toby Kebbell gorilla who's constantly at odds with Caesar.
Oh, the Toby Kebbell gorilla. Okay. My brain was like, I've seen these movies, but who was that?
It's been years since I've seen Dawn. It's just that Koba has a very specific look with the scar, and plus he's technically not a gorilla. He's a bonobo or something like that. I have no idea what kind of ape that is, but yeah, those were among my favorite aspects. And plus the zombie kills, even though I didn't think they were particularly scary for reasons I'll get into later, they were really well executed. The practical effects were great. When the guy puts the chainsaw through the woman's head and the blood is splattering all over the place, I just sit there and I go, how big of a budget do these guys have? Because they do a good job on knowing what to spend and what not to spend.
Well, I think I don't actually know the budget on this, but I think they knew what they had and they knew how much money they had, so they had to tell a human story, and that's why it's not just all gore all the time. And that's okay, because you don't have to be all gore all the time. No. That you don't have to be Saw constantly, because you don't have to be.
Even Canada's
Canada's version of Saw opens up
aren't like that.
The one thing I like about this movie that it subverts a few expectations of mine, because we open up with this sheriff fellow driving around. I'm just gonna get his name here.
The character's name is Trailer,
but he's driving around. He's doing things. We get to see a really interesting glimpse. I like what they do with the fish at the beginning there, because that's a really cool way to take us into a zombie film that I haven't quite seen before. I haven't seen zombie fish. The water could be infected.
I think that's the explanation they give. I don't know. They kind of breeze by it very quickly when they're looking at the map and they're basically summing up the in-between 6 months. So the suspense kind of goes out a little bit there when they discuss, like, okay, we know this is where it's coming from. We know that this river is causing everything because the fish came out of that river, and the dogs that we burned, but we're still alive, we're still walking and barking, more than likely drank out of that reservoir anyways. How they came back to life after that sheriff shot it in the head, I'm not entirely sure. That's
a very good question. But I like our opening to it because it's a little bit different, and I like we see sort of the main characters of the film at the beginning, but the main characters that we see are not necessarily main characters we see in the second half or may not be, lived through the film. And I like that they're like, what if we take some chances on what characters we leave alive? Like, what if we do that? They're like, we don't have, no one told us we have to keep the people you want alive. We can do whatever we want. We're the filmmaker. And I like that. I feel like this is what, this is a vibe. Like, I feel like Zack Snyder saw this and said, I can take elements of this for, that stupid zombie movie was, because like the way he created the interior of the fort and the tension and the characters, I feel like this is what Zack Snyder wanted to do, but this is like 1,000 times better executed because the characters actually have time to be characters. We get to learn about them. We get to see their daily life, whether it's the fires at night where they're sitting around drinking or doing drugs, or whether it's the solitude they have while someone's pregnant or whoever it is. I feel like there's a lot more to offer here character wise than a lot of zombie movies I've seen, and I appreciate that.
This is definitely an improvement over Army of the Dead. And whenever we have time to rant about that, or maybe we'll just wait till the end of the year, because chances are this is without question going to be on our worst of the year list.
Yeah, Army of the Dead is the worst movie I've seen this year.
It's a toss-up between this and that one Korean movie I said I would review, which I didn't. I gave up halfway through because you said you turn off movies when there's too much exposition. That is exactly what happened. Yeah,
I was trying to watch. There's two other movies that would qualify for worst movie of the year, but they didn't come out this year, so I don't really think I would include them.
There's like 2 or 3 other ones. One is that Disney Plus one I talked about with the girl and the squirrel.
Oh yeah,
like, that had moments, and I would probably put it at the bottom because there were parts that surprised and there were parts that delivered. It was just so generic.
Because
and plus, it's written from the guy who made Wild Hogs with Tim Allen. I wouldn't exactly hold him.
The guy was making the Clifford the Big Red Dog movie that we discussed last week.
No, that's the Alvin and the Chipmunks guy.
Oh boy,
not that it makes any difference, but
I mean, I was watching this one movie. My wife grabbed me a movie for Christmas, Doomsday, some movie from 2018. They spent the first 20 minutes talking about how the zombie apocalypse happened. It's like a direct-to-DVD movie. It's got Malcolm McDowell. It's supposed to be zombies. I just couldn't stand them talking about what was happening.
Malcolm McDowell, that's a direct-to-DVD name I haven't heard.
Yeah, so
I mean, it's Bruce Willis has like 5 or 6 movies coming out this year.
Oh no!
And at least half of them are in theaters. One of them is like a true crime thriller with him and Megan Fox.
Okay, that could be all right. You never know.
It could be. The
Megan
poster
Fox could surprise us.
The poster doesn't sell me on crime thriller because Megan Fox looks happy.
Okay, well, maybe she's a happy killer.
Like, she's Bruce Willis's partner, which, I mean, wrap your head around that anyways.
I mean, and then the other one I watched this year that would definitely, this makes the worst movie of all time. I was working on an episode for Video Virgins, our show where we review 2 movies, Criterion, and then a blockbuster. So we did Harry Potter and we did Police Story. 2 movies that shouldn't go together.
I did see that
work together. And we said, it's LGBTQ month. We Pride month. We want to cover one. And we said, what's the most iconic one? So I asked around people like, you should watch Pink Flamingos. I have words on this movie. Pink Flamingos.
Dude, I would have said A Single Man with Colin Firth because I
probably should have watched that one instead. But Pink Flamingos is about a drag queen and it's about equal opportunity actors on screen. And I think that's
divine,
wonderful.
Right?
It's divine. And I don't know if we should be going around, if this is the only movie about a drag queen for 10, 15 years, except for the other movies, why are we going around and calling all drag queens and LGBT plus the filthiest people alive? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And then why is there cannibalism? Why does someone fuck a chicken? Like, this is in the movie. There were just... Why could they, like, if Divine is truly running from the law, I'm gonna wrap this up real quick. If Divine is running from the law, why didn't they just make it a hate crime in another state? She's trying to be who she is and paint drag queens and these people in a positive light. How hard is that? Why do we need to make it the filthiest thing alive? Like, that's just disrespectful, is it not?
Well, I mean,
why did they fuck a chicken?
I would say that John Waters is gay, so but at the same time, I don't like John Waters.
But
I
wouldn't you
don't.
want people to respect gay and LBGTQ and all that stuff? Wouldn't you want people to respect them by making a real human
I'd
story and
have
just putting
to.
actors in those roles?
I'd have to watch the movie to first to understand, or at least try to understand what Waters was going for. Because chances are, I could probably find what he was going for. I probably wouldn't agree with it whatsoever, but it's like Sean Baker saying that he normalizes the lives of sex workers with Tangerine and Florida Project. And even though I like Florida Project,
I don't think it does
normalizing
that.
is not the word I would use because
I think it tells you a different story about how bad their life is. I don't think it normalizes it.
but at the same time, he still has characters that make really crappy decisions,
But
and I
like, if
don't.
you're at a birthday party and you're a drag queen and a cop comes up to you, are you going to eat them or talk to them? No, you're going to eat them because you're divine for some reason. Then everyone joins in. It's like a really bad, like there's no rhyme or reason to any of the actions that are taken in this film. And I thought maybe it's a commentary on the media, but the media is in it maybe for 2 minutes. And then you have some other couple that's trying to be the filthiest people alive. Why would you want to be the dirty? Why would you eat a dog feces out of a dog's butt? Why would you do that? That's in the movie. Why? Why? Like, there's no reason like that. What is that commenting on? It doesn't.
How much LSD Waters was on when he wrote the movie? That's
but like,
why.
you think if you take a drag queen like Divine, put her in a movie in a role that's normally reserved for like a standard woman, and say, here you go, here, paint it in a positive light and make it normalize it. That's all you want to do. That's what you want to do with these characters, especially in the 70s. Why would you do all this?
I feel like Waters did Divine more favors with Hairspray because she was the original Edna in that one.
I could that makes sense. You've got.
But also, I just want to say this. I think Disney modeling Ursula after Divine is more respectful than anything you've just said.
That's fantastic. I like that. But you should not be fucking chickens and eating dog turds. I'm just saying, it's weird and stupid, and I don't like it.
So basically, John Waters is to.
This is porn, Tyler. He made a porn film. Half of it is sex, and people tell me it's the best thing ever.
This is like that beach bum or trash humpers guy. What's that name? Harmony Corrine or something like that.
Oh my goodness!
But I can see where he gets his inspiration from after listening
just
to everything.
To put trash on screen for the point of putting trash on screen without saying something sets back whatever you're trying to say. That's what I think.
Yeah, and I want to hear what anyone has to say to defend this, because that would be hilarious.
And I've heard people are like, it's the pure definition of trash to see what you can get away with. That's the best explanation I could find. And I'm like, what's the point in trying? Why are you not say something through this? Don't just put what you can on screen. Say something. With Blood Quantum here, they didn't just make a zombie movie. They're saying and commenting on the state of our country and how we treat the people who were here first. That's what they're doing with this movie. It just happens to be backlit with zombies and the way the community reacts to things. And it's giving us an insight of how they feel they're treated over the years, whether it's the residential schools, whether it's the way anything has taken place through their time period. It could be even current day, how they're treated. Everything they're saying is something that's relevant to us. And that's what you could have done with the Pink Flamingos. You could have commented on the state of that, but no, you decided to do all this. But that's what I like about Blood Quantum, because we don't usually talk about this. We don't usually sit around and say, like, the fact that they dug up those graves and they put the flags at hazmat was great, but now what? Now what are you going to do about it? What is our government going to do about it from point A to point B? There's nothing I can do at this point.
Yeah, that's the only reason I don't.
Sad part. Like, at this point, because I think you give them all the national parks, every bit of crown land, and say, we messed up. Take this land. What can we do for you? Let's get you healthcare. Let's get you clean drinking water. Let's get you actual housing. Like, actually make amends, or don't bother. Because if you half-ass it like the government is doing now, what's the point?
I feel like you've touched on everything. I don't think I have anything new to add on that.
Let's talk about the kills, though. That's what I love.
There were some decent ones. I like the guy who just sits there with, what is it, the lawnmower, and he's just like, hey, what's up?
I think that's Snowblower.
A snowblower.
Yeah,
Okay.
an industrial snowblower just sits there with a snowblower and waits for the zombies to come, and that's great. I like one thing I will appreciate in this that I can say Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead did not do well was the zombie turning. People turn to zombies at a normal rate. Like
True.
it takes about three, because we see that they go out to do a mission to get some gas and stuff, and it takes about 3 or 4 hours for everyone to turn to zombies. And then we see that when they get away, it takes about 3 or 4 hours for the pregnant woman to get bit. And it logically makes sense to me. And I appreciate what they did with that, you know? Like,
Well, the scenario where she gets bit, I just sat there and I went, you could have avoided that, but you just had to fucking listen to the villain at the wrong time. You fucking bitch. I was on your side, and then you put the gun down when he told you to. You don't fucking listen to the villain, especially after the shit that he's turning into.
That's true. And what did you think of the villain in this film? Because I think that the villain is,
Well,
I understand where he's coming from at the end of the
I like his motivation.
Yeah.
The performance was so cartoony that it was a little hard to take him seriously. And plus, part of the problem I have with the script is that it's not subtle in its themes. For one, this guy's name is Lysol.
Yeah.
Get it? Because he's wiping out people.
Yep.
Who even thinks that's a badass name? If anyone was called Lysol in high school, they would get their ass kicked on day one.
I mean, can you imagine it's the zombie apocalypse? Hi, I'm Lysol. I'm here to kill you. What? I'm sorry.
I like, and don't get me wrong, he has a backstory where you understand where he's coming from because he was in the foster system. And I have seen my high school teacher for whatever class. The most I remember about being taught about Native American atrocities, which don't get me wrong, schools covered it, just
barely.
For whatever reason, they chose the Japanese internment to spend weeks and weeks on, which don't get me wrong, learning about that stuff helped. But at the same time, like the most I remember was my teacher showing a slideshow of just how shitty of living circumstances they got, and it was set to Michael Jackson's "They Don't Care About Us," which
that's a weird song to put over top.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a good choice based on everything, but it was so uncomfortable even for grade 12. It felt like a lot. It felt like those PETA commercials where they show animal abuse and try to act like that's a regular thing, only the Native American slideshow is a lot more commonplace, unfortunately. But
yeah,
but
Canadian.
Yeah, here's the thing. I like the backstory. I just wish we had seen it. I wish we hadn't learned until about 2/3 of the way into it, because one of the problems I have with the movie is when they decide to include character development, they go back and forth from trying to be cryptic and subtle to being really on the nose. And I felt that Barnaby's script was very imbalanced for the first 2/3 of the movie. For example, our main character Trailer and his ex-wife, who he still gets along with on good terms, and that was a decent enough relationship to see. The two of them shit on each other, and when I say each other, I mean like on themselves as a couple for how they raised these two kids. But at the same time, it takes until 2/3 of the movie to understand that really only one of them is at fault for the shit that happened to their oldest, and at the same time, both their kids make really dumb decisions before the zombie outbreak that when they discipline them, you can't really fault them for it. I get that the youngest is going through a lot, that he's an expecting father to an outsider, and once in a while they do touch on that. But did you notice that in each of their conversations when they're alone, they keep kind of changing the subject of the conversation halfway through? And I'm just sitting there going, who talks like this even in the most stressful of times? Why do movies keep doing this? I don't get that. I mean, in the first conversation, they do address this cliche by saying, will you quick change in the conversation and just answer the question? Which, okay, that one I like. That one I understood, but they kept doing it. And it made no sense. And the performances in Blood Quantum, I couldn't get into, and I feel like that's on Barnaby as a director, because the lead who plays Trailer, Michael Greyes, I'm not entirely sure if I pronounced that right. I've seen him do good. I've seen him
Michael
give good
Gray out of it.
performances in True Detective, Fear the Walking Dead. I hear that he was great, and I know this much is true. And he's even in that stupid Ed Helms sitcom that I'm not interested in watching,
And
just
Elms
because.
has a sitcom.
Yeah, it's called Rutherford Falls, and it touches on some of the shit going on in the States, but it takes the most obvious and safe position. And they're just like, oh, we're tackling tough subject matter. Yeah, from the side that the majority of people agree with. So there's no controversy and there's nothing really new to think about. I don't know. That's my reason for not touching on it, but
It might
I've
be
seen
Gray
him do
Eyes.
good work, and it's so different from what he is in this movie because he and the majority of cast members have this strange and exaggerated line delivery where they have to be as loud and emotionally charged as possible, even before the outbreak and in scenarios where it makes absolutely no sense for them to just shout at complete random. I have no idea what the intention was behind it, and I wasn't sure if people are going to go, well, maybe that's what actors of this one nation or whatever, that's what they talk like. And it's just like, yeah, I don't buy that because the amount of Native American actors that I've seen, Boo Boo Stewart, Martin Sandsmeyer from The Magnificent Seven, Graham Greene, half the cast of Yellowstone, they don't talk like that. So I don't really buy that would be the excuse, but
I think it's 100% directorial choice.
I think it was a directorial choice. And honestly, the only actor, in my opinion, who was awesome, even in the silliest moments, was, and I'm going to try and get this guy's name right here.
Was it
the
old
first
guy
two
with the
names?
swords?
Stonehorse Lone Goldman is the badass with the horse, and he was pretty awesome. I love that one, he's walking around with a katana and he has that cliched but still awesome philosophy that you don't have to reload a weapon like that.
So great.
That line was cool. I'll give him that. I like that as he's carrying around the katana, there's that question of whether or not these characters are fully First Nation or if they're multiracial, which that might have been an accidental choice, but in any case,
I was never
actually
thinking about that. I just thought they were really cool characters.
I don't know. In the credits, he had a name that struck me as more Asian than First Nations. I could be 100% wrong about that, but in any case, it leaves you thinking as opposed to just being given everything and consuming it. And plus, yeah, he was ridiculously good with the sword, especially in his last scene. He went out, assuming he did go out, because they leave his character up to imagination.
I love what they did with that last scene for him. Like, we won't spoil anything, but like the way they shot that sequence, like he tells a character to do a certain action, and the other characters do the action. He does the one thing that he's supposed to do, and then they just show him being so freaking cool, and they isolate him to this one specific area, and it's just like it's so darn awesome. Like, that's what I was hoping for a little more in the fort when it was a little slower. Like, if we got some more moments like that, some more photography, like that, even if they were talking and they just had this really interesting director of photography, like that's what I was hoping for.
Yeah, the fort would have been a little more awesome if it was like that. The zombie kills, much like the fort, and when it starts happening, they were entertaining based on the shock value and the amount of creativity that comes with killing them, but I was never scared by them because, for one, there's little to no buildup, so you can't really spend that much time anticipating or dreading what's going to happen to those characters. There's one that involves the death of a child that they obscured to keep you from getting that gross or freaked out by it. Even though it's a zombie movie, you kind of have to expect these certain things. I know there are zombie movies that don't go to that level. Like when Robert Rodriguez made Planet Terror and he put his own son as one of the survivors, he knew that was a big no-no because his ex-wife would definitely kill him. But
I love Planet Terror. Like that is one of my favorite Rodriguez movies. It's just
and for good reason.
So over the top. That machine gun leg. I love the silly military base. Like it's pure. Like literally.
Is it true that they cut out 10 minutes just for the hell of it?
What?
Is it true they cut out 10 minutes just for the hell of it?
I mean, maybe not. I don't know. I've watched a lot.
I read that somewhere in like a Cinefix video or something like that. But yeah, for one, I didn't feel there was enough time to get scared by them. Even in that gas station sequence, which was decent, but it wasn't intense or all that exciting. They keep going back and forth from having the camera locked down so you can see everything in full view in the foreground and background, like in the initial border sequence. And then there are other moments where it's very quick cut and handheld, and sometimes you really don't know where certain characters are or who's getting attacked. And that part was a little tough. And like I said before about how soon the other characters get their development, it's a little hard to get scared by them to begin with, because some of them have fully fleshed out arcs, no pun intended, and some of them really don't.
Yeah, I mean there are some characters. If we look at the sheriff and his crew, he's got the guy with the sword who I love, and then he's got his father.
Yeah, it's his dad.
Father, and then the other gentleman. Who's got the most flesh on them? All right, you go first.
Oh, with the battle axe, yeah.
Yeah, and you got those guys are fleshed out, and his wife has a good story, or his ex-wife, and then I think that his one son has a really great story who married an outsider. And I think that when we go to that inciting incident, we get an insight of what we are to see, without really explaining it to us, how no one wants to help him, because this guy who's always crazy or on drugs, he married this outsider, and that's no one wants to help him. No one wants to have them in their home to use their phone. And I think just doing that very briefly explains sort of the situation on that. And I appreciate the way they showed us, not told us. Like, it was like, they educated us, and I appreciated that was done really, really well, as opposed to the main villain of the film, the other brother. I don't know. I think they could have done more with him. I think they really should have focused on him.
I do like that he has to decide loyalty between the one brother and the rest of the family. It's just that, yeah, like you said, they don't give him a ton to do except for when he's around his girlfriend, and even then, you're more interested in what she's going through as opposed to what he's doing.
And I like the way, like, the Ford is a little bit slow at points, but I like what they do with the Last of Us type of storytelling. You're not a gamer, I know that, but the Last
no, but
of
I know
Us,
it's a zombie. I know it's a zombie apocalypse thing where it's also kind of a road trip movie. I know a lot of people make those comparisons with Logan or Quiet Place.
I would say more Quiet Place, but not Logan. I'd say Logan.
Well, I think it's Logan because of the grown man and the young girl.
Well, that comparison you could make. But there's a section in the game, the first one, which I love. The second one did nothing for me. Sorry, people. I don't want to play as a different character.
You're not alone on that, trust me.
I like the first half. But the first game, we get to a fort, and he has to visit his brother Tommy with a strained relationship. And then they spend a lot of time talking, and you get to go through these cut sequences and explore the fort and everything. And there's a lot to do, despite having not a lot to do, because you can still collect, and you can do this, and you can gather information. And then you have a zombie scene where everything goes wrong, very similar to this. But I'm sure that The Last of Us wasn't the first people to do it. I mean, you have that sort of Day of the Dead thing as well, the George A. Romero, where you've got the where you're studying the zombies and you know the zombies there, but it's still more about the relationships. And I'm not a huge fan of Day of the Dead. I think some of the gore is great, but I wish they would have done more with the storytelling and characters, because it still fell a bit flat for me. And everyone's like, it's the best one, and I'm like, nah, I like the Night of the Living Dead the best. What can I say? I like what they did with this. And then when the zombie characters do come in, our sort of side characters or outsiders, so to speak, in this, I appreciate the different reactions to this. The father who lost his daughter has that gruesome scene that we get to see. We don't really hear it. We just sort of see the after results. And then you have the zombie who's there, and she's just, going to town on that man's, meat and potatoes there. And I love how the brother in his character is like, no, let her finish. Like, there's just that level of, like, that brother is a little off his rocker, and I don't know what he wants, but I don't think he knows what he wants either. I think that's the strongest part of the villain. I would like to see some more character development with him. And I love the Ford, how they have this, like, soldier zombie just tied up outside. I think
that was cool.
Touch.
And he's missing his limbs, and that part looked pretty seamless too.
Yeah, just like there's a lot of really good, and then the gore is just absolutely fantastic. Like you said, the snowblower, the saw through the head. I like when they go on the mission there that the brother sets up, and he goes and he shoots this, like, hanging zombie, and he looks up, and the other guy's just up there, his father, and he's like, couldn't give me a heads up, and he just doesn't say it. It's just this moment of
just goes, look out.
There's a lot to love in this, but it is slow.
There is.
I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's just some of the B movie choices that Barnaby makes that just didn't do a ton for me. I can see why anybody would get into it. I mean, a lot of people did. I wanted to check it out at TIFF for Midnight Madness at 2019, but the tickets sold like crazy. I had no idea that many people wanted to check it out.
I think that TIFF, when you get a different movie, like you could have 1,000 for the dramas, but if you get some horror up in there, like there's a different level of appreciation for that. And people want
There
to
is
see
that.
movies when they're there. They want to see a drama, they want to see a comedy, they want to see something super indie, and they want to see a horror. They want to see a wide variety of films.
Yeah, and I'm hoping with the next selection of submissions that we get a little more variety. Not that there isn't with the stuff that we've got so far. It's just so far some of the choices are ones that were given and ones that were a huge surprise, like ones that we wanted but we didn't think we were actually
gonna I was very wrong in the TIFF selection. Tyler, you nailed it.
I can't believe I was right about that.
I just thought they'd have a little more variety, but usually, drama, it's very Oscar baity at the end of the day.
Well, I mean, The Guilty with Jake Gyllenhaal, that one's definitely just B-movie fun on that part. I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal, Ethan Hawke, Bill Burr, among a few others. I think it's an Antoine Fuqua movie, so there's not going to be a huge.
I like that guy. I like Equalizer, and I like Magnificent Seven remake. So,
and they keep showing Shooter on AMC, where you get to see Michael Pena in his 20s without the mustache.
I mean, I think freaky. If you want to see Michael Pena in the most interesting movie, what's that one called? Oh my goodness.
The fact that I was right about Last Night in Soho, that was right on the money there.
Oh no, I'm thinking of John Leguizamo. Never mind. I thought, yeah, I got the wrong person. So.
Oh, why? What were you thinking?
There's To Wong Fu with Love, Thanks for Everything. It's one of my wife's favorite films. So.
Oh, okay.
Got Wesley Snipes and Patrick Swayze, and then John Leguizamo as all drag queens that travel through the desert.
Wait, Priscilla?
No, it's Julie Newmar based upon that story. Oh. I don't know. My wife really likes it. So
I thought it was like that Australian one, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
That's a different one. That's
the Guy Pearce and Hugo Weaving.
Anyway, I was just thinking, is that Michael Pena? And it is not Michael Pena. I was wrong.
Got it.
But yeah. I think that Blood Quantum still did a lot of things really right. I'd give it like a 3.5 out of 5. I think it's really good. I just don't think I think it could have improved some things, but I think it's got a lot to say. I like the gore. I think it just could move a tiny bit faster and maybe a little bit more cinematography. And I will say, I thought the animation was really cool. I know we haven't touched on that yet.
I would have liked a lot more of that because those segues were cool. They gave you very subtle clues as to what was really going on and what certain character outcomes were, but maybe because they didn't have a ton of money, they didn't use them all that often, because there were times where I forgot those segues even existed.
Yeah, because they had like the beginning and the end and such. And I thought
that was the point. I'm not entirely sure.
I would have liked to see more of the animation, but still, I think it's well done.
Kind of like in Mandy, where Nick Cage has the nightmares in animation. It just adds that kooky atmosphere.
Did you review that for your channel?
I didn't review it because I liked Mandy.
Concept for next week's movie thing, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay. I can have a tad bit of a clue there, but
I'm thinking Mandy in Color Out of Space.
Oh, I can do that.
I think that'd be a cool Josh.
That'd be fun.
Show. Oh my
goodness, be fun.
We have so much to say on this because I own both of them on Blu-ray. I love them to death.
Of course.
Anyway, but what did you think of Blood Quantum?
Blood Quantum was okay. The themes were there, and some of the technical aspects were definitely decent, but the technical aspects that I didn't like just really weighed the movie down. I'm sorry, folks, but I'd give it a 2.5 out of 5. I'm not angry that I saw it. It's just, it had so much potential.
I would like to share the alternate posters here because I think they're really cool. So here's the main poster, right?
That's the villain with the,
Yeah, so here's an alternate poster, which is really neat. That's a cool poster.
I like that one's cool.
Then here's an alternate poster, and that's really neat. Like,
who's the girl holding the stake? I didn't see her in the movie anywhere.
Which one? This one?
Yeah, I never saw her anywhere.
I'm not sure, but I like. There's the.
Then again, there was no wolf and no violin either.
But this poster is really cool. Like, why didn't we get this one? Like, look at that. That's a piece of art I want to put on my wall.
I don't know. It's one of those Photoshop posters where they shove everyone in. Oh God, that wouldn't have been.
But then like this is
You just imagine if the poster was the grandpa holding the head, kind of like that Strain poster that everyone saw with the eye popping out.
But yeah, there's just some really cool alternate artwork, and I don't know why they didn't include it as like a teaser poster or something.
You
Because
just got to go with the most generic stuff possible, man. That's how posters get made.
I think that's disappointing.
It is.
So let's jump over to one that I was really excited to check out because I hadn't seen it. I missed it. We played it for 3 nights at the Princess. Barely.
And I was working all those nights, so I wouldn't have been able to make it.
Yeah, we barely played it. And it's Jay Baruchel from How to Train Your Dragon, and This Is the End and stuff. And man, this man made a movie.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I will say from point A, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. He nailed the pacing. He nailed the characters. He nailed the gore. He knew his ending. He left it ambiguous enough that we could guess. He been working on this for years. That's my guess. He's been writing this, directing it. It's one of the more unique concepts I've seen in the horror genre. And I've been thinking about it for the last little bit. He did exactly what he wanted to do. So I have no ill feeling towards this film.
True. I'm not sure. I mean, this is based off of a comic book itself, oddly enough. So, and that would explain some of the meta references that are shoved in throughout the movie, like the comic book segues that have more of a prominent presence than the animated bits in Blood Quantum. Funny thing, I had the chance to review this, and I think because the night I saw it, I had such a rough enough day that I just didn't have the energy to be able to do it. But that was a huge mistake because, in my opinion, this was one of the more underappreciated and unacknowledged movies of last year. I mean, granted, there were a lot of underrated movies released last year based on everything. Yeah. But when you hear Jay Baruchel directing a slasher movie, that does sound like a bad concept on paper. But having seen him, I have seen him direct before. He made Goon 2 because he co-wrote the original Goon. And even though 2 wasn't anywhere near as funny as the first one, he still did a decent directing job either way. But he really shows his full potential and his wide range as a filmmaker with this one. And the best part about his direction is the slasher scares are all legit. I didn't count 100%. A jump scare or false alarm whatsoever. This guy understands that building suspense is showing information to the audience that characters do not understand. One of the most emotional kills in the movie is this one assistant who's drawing something in the foreground, but we see the killer approaching from behind with a knife, and we're just sitting there going, you fucking get out of there already? Or
I love what they do, how they don't show how the kills are done. They show you where he's about to knock them out unconscious, and you have no idea how he's going to kill them because they don't reveal you the page numbers, which I think is a really clever thing. And then they show you after, and it's worse having your mind fill in how it happened. It's so effectively done, especially the first kill in the film we see with the teenagers, where
it's a very standard broken down car, and then he approaches. But when you see him get out of the car, he is taking his time. He's building up the adrenaline by beating himself in the chest. It's very clear that this was an intentional incident, that the breakdown was not a coincidence by any means. At least I didn't think so. I know that's kind of
I think it was just random. He was just following them. But then you see him and he does a few nice stabs and the one person tries to run away. And that's all you see of them until our main characters drive by and see what he has done, which is horrible and gruesome. And their reactions are worse than anything you could show the killer doing. That's
the fact that most of the horror in the first half of the movie really comes down to this comic book writer seeing kills that are eerily reminiscent of his own work that make him really make him question how other people see his comics. Because the portrayal of violence is not only done in an unsettling but entertaining way, it takes a controversial approach, one that I'm not entirely always sure why it's controversial, but it's surprisingly well thought out. Baruchel and his co-writer do acknowledge that there are killers who their acts are inspired from works of fiction, whether they be books, movies, shows, comic books, or vice versa, when authors take real life incidents and either translate it into fiction or just recount it as a nonfiction book, kind of like one of the main characters is doing. But they also feel the need, they also point out the fact, something that, again, I'm not sure why people are so afraid of pointing out, maybe because family and friends of victims might say, oh, well, that just means you don't care. No, it doesn't mean they don't care when you say this. The killers had a choice to kill based on that one book. Nobody forced them to do it. They had every option not to hurt innocent people. And even if those books and movies that they were inspired by didn't exist, there's always something in real life or in fiction that they could simply replace with. They even have the audacity to point out that doing these acts based off of something that already happened is unoriginal, just based on the fact that anyone can do it. So in a way, it almost has this mocking bite to it. And I love that it just is unapologetic and trying to find hard answers with a hard subject. And as you pointed out, the fact that we see the before and after of the kills, but never as they're happening, leaves so much up to imagination, leads to some of the most creative slasher kills I have ever seen. I don't know how much of that has to do with the comic or Baruchel's own fucked up mind as a horror fan, but in any case, it works.
I mean, I was looking at this movie and said, wow, if I ever make a movie this good, that's it. My career is done. I don't need to do anything else.
Really?
Like, this is phenomenal. Like, this is a phenomenal horror film. Like, I'm sitting here and I watch all these things with my wife for all the shows we do. So, you know, because I watch all the things with her. So we're sitting here and watching this, and we're like trying to figure out where the movies are going to go. And at a certain point, we just gave up because we couldn't figure out what was going to happen. We just had to sit and watch the movie. Because we chat like very minimally, like, oh, you know, that's a good hint, or yeah, I like this part, or that's really well done, you know, just really little bits. And she'll be like, and usually my wife's really good at predicting movies, and so am I, but like, I got nothing on what's happening in this movie. I'm like, because I really thought that the killer here was like a copycat fan who saw the book and was doing this. And I was wrong. That was my theory on this. And then I thought,
without spoiling
no.
anything, it leads to a very unexpected twist that I did not see.
I love this ending because they satisfy you and they don't satisfy you at the same time. They give you enough of both, but we'll discuss the ending a little. I love what they do for this comic book opening. I love the comic book idea of just opening with this comic book and the pages because it refers to the film, and I like the animation they use for it. And then they show this door and they show a little flashback of like things to come. And I like what they do with that. They tease you enough to hook you on the movie. Then they give you a little character development when they start to travel around the country with the radio station and all that stuff. And then they tear down the characters that you're supposed to care for by having them by making a stance on this, saying maybe you shouldn't write about this. And then they say, oh no, you're not done yet, let's talk to the victim's mother, you know, like. And then they just jump right into the gore, and this movie just moves. And I love the way this movie opens and the way it gets us in. I was trying to make dinner at the same time. I just had to pause the movie and go make dinner. Because usually I put the movie on and like I'll just monitor the plot from beside the kitchen and watch my TV, right? But I was like, no, we go finish dinner and then we go and watch this. So,
and you know, the performances are really good too, because the main cast is full of people I wouldn't really associate as that great at what they do. But Jesse Williams was fantastic at someone who's experiencing a great deal of stress even before the copycat kills are already happening. He has a huge deadline for his latest comic. He has writer's block, a difficult relationship with his girlfriend, who is played surprisingly very well by Jordana Brewster. I've never been a big fan of hers, but she was actually ideal casting in this one because the two of them have differing philosophies on how to write these kind of things. He has absolutely no problem with writing the fiction because, again, anyone has a choice to copy off of it compared to her, who legitimately is concerned about getting accounts from people who don't get listened to very often. And that part was definitely interesting. And all of these things are weighing on him, along with the fan base's bizarre and incredibly fucked up way of showing their appreciation. The dioramas were as insane as the actual kills. Yeah. I couldn't believe that.
That probably could have been a mini model from like a scene they were going to do in the film that they just didn't do, for honestly all we know. I like the crazy.
That would have been great if that were the case.
Like, yeah, Jordana Brewster, like, we don't know her name in my house. We're like, oh, it's Mia from Fast and Furious. That's
exactly.
What we know. And we're like, and I'm like, I look at my wife. I'm like, is that Mia? She's like, I don't know.
Yeah, they give her glasses to make her
They
look
put a lot of heavy
smarter.
makeup on
That
to make
part
her look
was
a little younger.
that part was
We're like,
weird.
and we're like halfway through. My wife's like, maybe. I'm like, it very well could be. And she's like, I'm just gonna look it up.
Yeah, because when does she ever do anything useful in Fast and Furious? I think F9 has probably the most amount of stuff she does.
Which I actually have not seen F9 yet. So
I'm blown away that you haven't. I thought that was a big
I
thing
didn't
for
get a chance last weekend. I was doing auditions and a bunch of shows for
you. Okay, yeah, that's fair. And
the plan is to see it this weekend with the wife at the drive-in. So because she wants to see it. Because we like those movies, and we're like at Jesse Williams, I realized I've watched him in a bunch of stuff. I forgot who he was in Cabin in the Woods, to be honest. I remember all the other characters.
He was in that?
Him. Apparently he's Holden in Cabin in the Woods.
Huh.
I got to figure out who Holden is in Cabin in the Woods.
I was gonna say, other than Chris Hemsworth and the two that actually make it out, I don't know any of them.
The one thing I appreciate about Cabin in the Woods is they play "This Is the Sound from the Hop." They play the sound. John Perkins said it right by Switchfoot. Freaking love that song. Owned it on vinyl. Oh, he's the other dude. That's not the stoner dude or Chris Hemsworth. Okay.
That makes sense.
But Jordana Brewster, this could very well be one of her finest performances.
If not, well, like apparently the only thing she might have been good in was that Lethal Weapon show, and I'm not entirely sure.
I ain't touching that. I'm a Mel Gibson and Danny Glover Lethal Weapon guy.
Well, trust me, I'm not trying to convert anyone. I've only seen minor clips, including one where since you're not going to touch it, there's no problem with me saying this. They fucking killed Riggs.
Well, yeah, because they like recast after season 1 or something.
No, apparently the actor was a douchebag to everybody, although allegedly he's not convinced of that. And they replaced him with fucking Sean William Scott, who, yeah. And don't get me wrong, Sean William Scott does not get enough credit. Dude's great.
That guy's really funny at moments. I will say that American Pie was made for that man. There's that Dexter knockoff he did, Bloodline, where he was a convincing serial killer. I'll give him that. I love his meta bit. He knows how to make fun of himself, because in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, he shows up as himself and he's playing Jay. Of course. He's playing Jay, and he's trying to be Jay as much as possible. I love how meta this man can be. Like, I don't think he's the best actor in the world, but I know he's having fun with his career.
Well, no, he's not. But at the same time, like,
for a man who has
he's
fun.
charismatic.
The hits.
And he has that Paul Rudd syndrome where dude just hasn't aged at all.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. And then I like Jay.
Plus, Sean William Scott was awesome in the Goon movies with Jay Baruchel. Just completely stone-faced, stupid, but so big of a sweetheart. And the only time he picks fights as a goon is if he's legitimately trying to protect people. It was awesome. It's just like, my brother was gay, you homophobe. Headbutt. And it's just like awesome. Fucking love it.
Yeah, I love Jay in this movie too. I like that he knows exactly what to do. He has maybe one scene by himself. He has maybe 15 lines of dialogue. He gives himself the smallest role, knowing people will see him.
I don't know. I thought the assistant had less to do than he did. I mean,
but he knows not to be the lead in his movie. He knows what he can do. He knows his level of, I've got to direct, I've got to write, I've got to manage this movie, but I can do a little bit. He understands what he can do. He knows his limitations.
Absolutely.
Very clearly portrayed by the small role he has.
And I also like that dude actually does have an arc centering around him, initially not caring about press, if anything, actually championing the controversy, because it gives him the exact publicity that his brand needs. And it's something that people don't really acknowledge when they think that calling something out is hurting them. If anything, calling someone out actually does more harm for you than it does them. I'm just throwing that part out there. But you can tell that it's weighing on him. And dude doesn't have a ton of range, so he doesn't say anything in those sequences. But in my opinion, that actually does kind of help out a lot more.
Yeah, and I appreciate that he balances his roles really well. But also, like, we watched this at the end, I don't know, about 3 weeks ago. I love that movie. I love This Is the End. I like how meta it is. I like the cast. I think Emma Watson is fantastic in it. Danny McBride, all these people. Seth Rogen.
Yeah, it's not often I can laugh at Danny McBride, but they found a way to work.
In college, I saw it with a couple friends. And Jay Baruchel is just born to play these sort of like, no, look at me, I'm here, guys, and then we forget about you roles. But then we have the
Yeah,
assistant.
because you forget all of his movies. I mean, who remembers She's Out of My League? Oh, that's right, no one.
I think I saw it once in high school, maybe. I don't know.
You know what I mean.
But his assistant, I know his assistant doesn't have a lot to do, but I still feel for her when she gets killed.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
understand her value to the team, and she says she's drawing a dead dog because she's trying to like contribute to the comics. Like she's really trying like to be
Yeah, for
part of
sure.
this team. And when you see someone who's trying very hard get killed abruptly, you're like, I don't like that.
There's
But,
that
yeah,
about it.
I love what they did. They were able to use their sets so effectively in this too. This is a very low budget movie, obviously.
Yeah, and sometimes you can kind of tell there are some shots that are framed in a way that looks kind of
Yeah.
sloppy. Like when they're all in the car, the first scene of the road trip, and the camera is like jiggling alongside the car. I just sat there and I went, okay, this is not a good idea. And this doesn't put you in the atmosphere or anything. It just looks like shit. And that sequence where the killer is following those teenagers and it's kind of sort of a long take, it felt like it was captured in the moment or was just done on a first take out of necessity. I know it's not a major, it's a nitpick to mention, but at the same time, you can tell that even the biggest names of people have their limitations.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even in something like Letterkenny, which looks incredibly polished and looks like the Canadian version of a Wes Anderson TV show with the way it's filmed.
Yeah.
You can tell that once in a while they didn't have everything, which is probably why they rely so much on the dialogue and just the one town that they live in. And but that still works to the show's effect.
Yeah, and that first scene's a little shaky, but I love when they first get to the gas station and like they walk around and they're just like, there is this sense of who's eating this food, but let's put our comic books on the rack because there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And like we get the dog bit and we get a lot of character development in this little bit. We get to see literally what everyone is about by what they're doing.
True.
No, I appreciate that. I don't know if they ever got gas. I don't care.
Really? That's your big question?
Well, they wanted gas, and I mean, I just love everyone has different motives. Everyone literally goes about their way in this scene doing different things. Everyone is like a separate character in every scene. There's one time during the movie where we get to see before the assistant gets killed, and we get to see everyone sort of alone reflecting on that interview that they just had at the radio station where they're basically like, no, you suck, you shouldn't be writing about this, and he's in his own head making about himself, and Jay's just laying there really tired, missing her text. She's out there reflecting all of this, watching this couple argue by a moving van that we think could potentially be a problem, but are they? I don't actually know. I don't want to say, you know? And I like the way they isolate them, but they're still all together in this scene. And that's really, really well done. And then we just jump right into the gore, straight up. All the gore is there. And then it's just a gore fest from now till the end. And I love what they do with this gore. It's bloody, it's over the top, but it makes sense for the story because any other movie, this would be too much gore. But because of what they write in the comics or draw in the comics, that's what they do. And they just go for it. And on the sequence specifically on the highway where they see the family, right? And they're trying to call the police and
Right,
this
yeah.
and like that sequence is the way they paced that and edited that, brilliant, absolutely brilliant in that. And then you get the big final scene where he's where his wife is in danger and they have to basically do all of this, and he comes home to find the killer trying to finish his comic that he's unable to finish, and it's just like, and then that ending, yeah, there's that satisfying moment where he gets the revenge he wants, but then he creates something else that we don't know how to take right away. And I appreciate that. And then you see this sort of throwback to this crime, the crime the killer did commit, and how he's creating what this little kid did. And I'm like, yeah, this is executed well from beginning to end. It's perfect. This is I don't know what I just thought because I watched this movie and I was blown away. I didn't know if I loved it, but I just knew the director set out to do what he wanted to do.
See, that sounded weird when you
vision.
said it, because you kept pushing for me to check it out, and I just sat there
Yeah,
okay, I'll check it out. Oh my god, this is awesome.
Yeah, like, and I was looking at the ratings, like it's got a 5.2 on IMDb, whatever.
Yeah, there's so many allegations where it's just like, oh, it betrays the message. Oh, this is
57% on Rotten Tomatoes, 25% audience score. I don't think the movie's found its right audience. I just don't think.
Yeah, I'm really confused.
I think this movie in 10 years, everyone's like, have you seen Random Acts of Violence? Have you seen this movie? It's so well done. It's like the perfect movie in the horror genre. I think that's where this movie lands in 10 years.
I hope it has that kind of cult status. I mean, it'll be hard to do that because it's a Canadian horror movie and it doesn't have the reach that Possessor did, where American audiences did actually see it, because I mean the majority of the cast members were American in that anyways. It just looks so Canadian. Like, I know that sounds weird, but when you look at the buildings and the structures and everything, you just go, this is Toronto or an hour away, and it all looked top notch. It just happens to have Sean Bean, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and a couple other people.
Yeah, I think the critics just didn't understand this, because I'm looking at the general reviews and I don't think they understand what this film was.
Probably not, and I can kind of understand.
The film that can't find its ending it's looking for. It was really with us, then it suddenly was not. This movie is about finding its ending, and it found its ending. And then people are like, it's so eager to shock without telling. There's no filler in this movie. I don't know where the people think this filler is coming from. There's no wasted line of dialogue, like except for maybe that beginning scene that was poorly shot, but that sets up our characters. They're like, it's trying so hard much to say about evil and how it's boring for 90. This movie is not boring. Like, what do you want out of a movie? This is a guy. Like, I'm curious for the budget.
Look, I get why people wouldn't like it. I get that people wouldn't agree with the message. But, I mean, for one, every character in the movie, their opinions on these are treated equally as fairly. Yeah. Like, there are characters who think, yeah, we do think we're responsible for this. Or characters who are saying, no, these killers had an option. And I lean more towards the killer had an option philosophy. But the best part is you can make up your mind either way.
Yeah, and that's the strength. That's a huge strength to the movie. It presents both sides of the argument. But
so many critics are convinced that it's going for one message. That's not what the movie's going.
And why should a movie only have one message? Why can a movie not have different points of view and put them all equally in it? Why not?
And the weird thing is, critics didn't used to be that hard on movies that had these kinds of messages. One of my favorites of all time recently is Thank You for Smoking. And it takes a variety of different opinions on the subject matter of who's more responsible, manufacturers or consumers. And the movie leads more towards consumers because the information's out there. You can fucking read it and you can fucking teach it to your kids. Like the final speech of the movie, which is one of the best final speeches in any movie, but it also makes it clear manufacturers are shady. They make it explicitly clear, but they also point out, how did you not know these things were clear to begin with? And people fucking loved Thank You for Smoking back in the day. If it were to come out anytime this year or last, people would shit on it. Let's be honest.
I just think, if this movie had come out 10 years ago, it would have been a classic. Everyone would have seen it. I think right now we're in a very sensitive spot where everything needs to be a clear-cut right and wrong message. And if we're going to do it, like, you can't make movies that, like, and I think I see a lot of, so I was just looking at Jay's. So he directed the Goon 2 movie, Last Enforcers, whatever that was, an episode of Trailer Park Boys, a short, and this film. I cannot wait for what Jay is going to make. His art is so unique. It's so refreshing. I don't know what to expect from this man. And he's
so humble. And he's so humble about it too. He's just like, well, I'm hoping this is what we're going to do. I don't know if we're going to fall through, which you gotta love when he does that. And the amount of work that he went into it, because when he was editing this, he was also doing press tours for The Last How to Train Your Dragon. So he had a lot on his plate. He had to move the editing suite into his own house, which really, how many directors in his level of celebrity get to do that?
I mean, I'm so excited because the horror genre has got stale in the last few years. There's a lot of movies.
Well, depending on where you look at it,
jump scares, more of those more of the spin-offs of Annabelle's or the Nuns or that. And that's fine, but we need
Look, the studio horror has gotten stale.
Yes,
I'll give you
100%.
that. But when it comes to down to indie horror like A24, some Blumhouse movies, although Blumhouse is moving towards studio horror as opposed to indie based on some of the
like
more
I will
questionable
give them,
choices.
I'll give them the first Happy Death Day. I thought that was really creative. Like Groundhog Day with Murder was really
They
cool.
had Happy Death Day. They had Get Out.
Yeah.
The Hunt was not a horror movie. I don't know why it was advertised that way. That just made zero sense.
There's a lot of things that are poorly advertised. I know you really enjoyed The Hunt, though.
Yeah, and part of it was because, I mean, it was poorly advertised. People were just like, everyone hates this movie. Yeah, because they don't have a light bulb in their head. I think that plus they're so... A movie like The Hunt, people hate it because they feel like their opinions are being attacked, which is weird. It attacks every opinion imaginable.
Who said everyone has to agree with you?
Like you said, sensitive right or wrong messages that we just have to put in all of our movies, right?
Like, why can't we have different opinions? What's so wrong about that?
I don't know. Like TIFF... Funny thing, like TIFF prides itself on being so diverse about everything, and it's just like, well, yeah, you're diverse about almost everything except diversity of thought. I mean, let's face it, the only movies you include from right-wing filmmakers are always in the Midnight Madness ones. You got Sparrow Creek, you got Brawl and Cell Block 99, maybe Bone Tomahawk. No, Bone Tomahawk was in a different festival, but you get where I'm saying with. They get...
I don't see Bone Tomahawk. Bone Tomahawk at TIFF. I just don't see that as a TIFF film. I could see.
Well, I mean, they put 99. Brawl. They put Brawl in there, and it was like second or third place in the Midnight Madness category. Which really,
why is Midnight Madness at midnight? Why don't we have those during the day? Like, don't you think people want to see?
They're not technically, dude. They're not technically at midnight. When I saw The Predator, it was at, I don't know, 9:30 or something like that.
Later,
it went on till about midnight, and that part was a pain in the ass, especially because the movie sucked. But
well, I think there's this basically, if you make an indie movie, they want you to make a meaningful, impactful drama about a social issue, because that's what 99% of the movies that we play at the Princess are. And don't get me wrong,
they're good, but
Beautiful Boy was fantastic. We played. If you look at last year when we got, if we had played Nomadland, that would have been a great one. You know, there's a lot of good ones.
It is great. Yeah.
But you've got to let other genres in there. You got to let horror and comedy, and like even The Climb didn't perform as well as I thought it was, because I thought that was amazing. I loved The Climb. I like its dry sense of humor. I like its characters and its ending. I know not everyone loved it, but we need different.
That was at well, I mean, The Climb was at Cannes, so I felt like people appreciated that enough either way. And apparently there's some right-wing filmmakers who got a decent enough amount. Well, okay, they got a decent amount of hate at Venice, but there were critics who normally hate their shit that actually dug it enough, which, how often can you say that? I mean,
the next horror in indie doesn't get the respect it deserves. I think horror is like, oh, you made a horror movie. That's cute. You know?
Yeah, like Halloween Kills is going to be Midnight Madness. It's not going to be like TIFF Selection, which, I mean, granted, not that anyone's asking for it to be. I mean, they're just happy enough that it's a B movie sequel and people are excited enough for it. But I mean, there are horror movies that, yeah, like even Blood Quantum was shoved in Midnight Madness.
Yeah, I mean, like I thought that movie,
based on some of the B movie choices I didn't like about it, I can definitely see why.
But that movie does have something to say, and it could be front and center. And I think Random Acts
of
Violence has a lot.
Don't forget, Shadow in the Cloud, which won Midnight Madness last year, that had a message.
Is that the one you didn't like?
Yeah.
Is that the Chloe Grace Moretz one?
Yeah.
The feminist movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think indie horror doesn't get enough respect. I just think there's not enough respect for indie horror. And when it comes to indie horror, you have all the indie reviewers who come out and they're like, well, I watched a drama. I watched The Father, which is a great film. I watched Nomadland, and I watched Moonlight and Shape of Water, and I watched all these unique.
I don't even think Stuckman watched any of the Midnight Madness stuff last year.
And I mean, you get to this point and you're like, and they're like, I'm an indie drama person. Like, I love indie movies. I love blockbusters. But at the end of the day, you have to allow other genres in it. You can't just because you don't like horror and you want to see some meaningful conversation, write it off. And I think that's what's happening with this Random Acts of Violence movie. But in 10 years, I think this is an underrated classic. People are going to be like, have you seen this? This is the movie. People are going to be saying, if you have not seen this movie, you need to, because Jay is going to come out with some other movie that's going to blow our minds. And I don't know what that is. It could be a comedy. It could be a genre. He seems to do a little bit of everything. And everyone's going to look back and say, oh my goodness, what's this Jay movie we've never, oh my goodness, that's really good. I think we change opinion in 5-10 years.
I would certainly hope so. And the good news is, based on some of the tip selections that are here this year, there's definitely going to be a decent amount of variety. I mean, The Guilty is a crime thriller. There's Last Night in Soho, which is probably not going to be shoved in Midnight Madness. I feel like that'll get a lot more respect because it's Edgar Wright and it's more of a psychological thing. And it's over 2 hours, which I think this is going to be the longest one Edgar Wright's ever made. And plus there's other thrillers like this French one called The Mad Woman's Ball, which that actually sounds decent. Night Raiders, that stars the ex-wife from Blood Quantum, and it's another sci-fi apocalyptic movie, but with a much different premise, and it sounds good. Celine Sciamma has a brand new movie, The Portrait of a Lady on Fire director.
Oh, that was a fantastic film. I love the sets and the camera in that.
Just looking at the poster, I can't tell if this is a teen lesbian movie or if this is just girlhood friends, kind of like her movie Girlhood. We'll have to see, but that's definitely on my radar there. Oh, Theodore Melfi, who made what did he make? Hidden Figures. That's right. He's got a new one.
Yeah.
With Melissa McCarthy, and it's more dramatic. Oh, about a married couple going through grief. Okay, I'm in on that.
I was just because I really liked Melissa McCarthy and Can You Ever Forgive Me, but her husband needs to stop.
And I was at the grand premiere for that. And you know what? Hearing her talk about what drove her to the role and the process that she had in portraying the character gives me so much more hope that movies like The Starling that she's doing now, that she can keep moving forward and just stop doing favors for Ben. Seriously,
Melissa McCarthy came out of the gate flying.
He sucks. He's only funny in Bridesmaids because you put him in there.
Yeah, Ben Falcone. That's the guy, right?
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
His movies, he doesn't know what the problem is he doesn't have an identity in his films. He wants to make a comedy, but then he makes it dramatic. He wants to make a drama, but then he makes it funny. He doesn't know what he wants to do. Because Tammy was supposed to be a comedy. He thought it was really funny, but then
he threw in like the mother daughter
relationship. He makes something like a Thunder Force where he's trying to make a comedy, but he makes more of a social commentary and more of a drama than anything.
Wait, what?
Something about life. Yeah, I sat down and watched it. It was bad.
Huh?
He's trying to comment on women's superheroes and body types. That's what he's trying to do with the film. But he's trying to do it while being funny. So it's a drama. So there's no jokes in it. But then you got something like Life of the Party or the one where she's a Girl Scout where they're trying to make a comedy, but the jokes just don't hit.
The Boss has moments, mostly because of how over the top they are. Like Peter Dinklage chasing her around with a katana or that stupid Girl Scout fight. Those parts I laughed at because they just knew when not to take themselves seriously. It's just everything else about it that, yeah, no.
I don't know what Ben Falcone is doing, but
Tammy has got to be the worst experience, one of the worst experiences I've ever had watching a movie, mostly because the rest of my family was laughing their asses off. And don't get me wrong, I get why. It's just, I've gotten sick of it. Like, if you're not sick of these jokes, great, eat it up. I got no problem with that. It's just, don't judge me for not laughing at shit that I have seen 1,000 times in the exact same way. Just don't.
She's becoming like Adam Sandler, and I don't want to see her become that, because Can You Ever Forgive Me was really good.
And
she was great in Bridesmaids, and she was good in that Jason Statham Spy movie for moments of it.
Spy was fucking amazing. I love that one. The worst scene in Spy.
It's great.
Do you remember that scene in Spy where she's anticipating the bike coming straight at her, and then Falcon's just like, "Hey, can you tell me where to get to this place?" And you're just like, "Really? You mind? Okay, fine. I'm gone." And I'm just like,
and I mean,
even in it.
I didn't love the Heat, but I felt like she shone in that movie. Like her with Sandra Bullock was a really good combination. But then
absolutely,
studs, and she's just sort of. It's sort of like when Adam Sandler came out of the gate with Happy Gilmore.
Don't forget St. Vincent with her and Bill Murray.
I have that on my shelf. I have to watch that. But like, I just feel like she does the Adam Sandler thing where she comes off of like doing a lot of things, doing the TV that everyone loves, and then she just makes bad career choices. Like, I feel like that's where it's going, and I'd like to see her correct that choice because she can be funny under the right direction. That's the key.
Paul Feig, especially,
Paul
just based
Feig
on
works very well with her.
everything except Ghostbusters, though.
I mean, I didn't mind Ghostbusters, but my favorite part was the credits where Chris Hemsworth was dancing. So that's how you tell. Like, I think it exists.
I hated Hemsworth so much in that movie. I just sat there. I'm like,
fine.
how can you be?
I didn't dislike it.
Yeah, but here's my problem. Like, there are stupid men in movies, and then there's him, and I'm just sitting there going, how could you be dumber than Patrick Starr, Ralph Wiggum, and Jerry combined? Like, how?
I don't know. But I just think that, you know, under the right direction, certain comedic talent shines. It's just like,
yeah,
if you get the right director, like there's certain people that are always funny and always great on screen, no matter what. Gene Wilder is fantastic on screen, no matter what you do with the man. But Richard Pryor is hit and miss because Superman 3 was not very good. But then you've got See No Evil, Hear No Evil, and you've got the movie there in Blazing Saddles. And no, sorry, not Blazing Saddles. What's the other one I'm thinking of? Silver Bullet and a bunch of these other films, and he's fantastic on screen because you got the right director, and that's what
somehow
McCarthy.
I just love that Sidney Lumet of all people couldn't get a good performance out of Richard Pryor.
Why not?
Well, it's the fucking Wiz. Like then again, that would have to you'd have to explain why 30-year-old Diana Ross is 20-year-old Dorothy, which
it's a good question.
She wanted to be in it. They wanted to cast the original girl from the musical who was the right age, but she's just like, hey, I know a producer who will give you financing if you give me the role. And they're just like, okay. And the original director who's just sat there and went, you know what, fuck this. I'm not being part of this commercial.
Nope.
And somehow Sidney Lumet got in there, even though it's fucking Sidney Lumet.
Well, yeah, I hope at the end of the day that when we get all these TIFF different movies, I hope that all the different genres get a chance to shine, and it's not just, look, I'm a drama. That's what I want out of TIFF. I think we should be highlighting different voices, different genres, different styles, different actors, different camera styles. You know, like everything that we can to be diverse. Why are we doing that? How hard is that?
Well, I mean, it's not that they aren't diverse, it's that they care more about who's diverse in the movie as opposed to what is diverse about the movie, because believe it or not, folks, there is a difference. I know for a lot of people that's not a huge priority, and actors getting jobs is more of a concern. And don't get me wrong, that is a valid concern. It's just, it's only so often that you're able to accomplish that all the time, because we tend to forget how big certain populations of certain communities are. I know it's not an excuse because there's still a lot of people in small communities, but we can't wait around for every great actor of every demographic to show up. It's hard, and you feel bad about it, especially if you're in that position, but you can't always do it. Like Quentin Tarantino can't always put Samuel L. Jackson in all of his movies just based on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I thought he was going to. Like,
well, who do you think he'd be in that movie?
Well, Tarantino would have wrote him a different role that we wouldn't have seen with the finished product. At least I felt that way. Or I don't know. Could you imagine if Samuel L. Jackson was like Sidney Poitier or something, and it was DiCaprio that got into a fight with him as opposed to Brad Pitt getting into a fight with Bruce Lee?
Hey, I'm down to see Sam Jackson do anything.
I'm not saying Samuel Jackson would be a convincing Sidney Poitier, but I would also argue that could be part of the joke.
I mean, it'd be really interesting because it was like the 70s, right? Wouldn't it
Late
be interesting
60s.
if they put him in as Martin Luther King Jr.? As like one scene, just I don't know, like that.
That sounds like a fun. That sounds like a Funny or Die skit that would get removed.
Yeah, that does sound like a skit.
I mean, fucking David Oyelowo played him twice in two different movies, oddly enough. Because like he did Selma. I can't remember what the other one was.
Burden?
Which one?
Burden. No, that's Whitaker.
No. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I would be down. But yeah, no, we need, like, at this point, you know what Hollywood needs to do and all these people? Go and seek out actors of different diversities and cast them in your film and jumpstart their careers. Don't wait for them to come to you.
Also, actors who have auditioned so many times and feel like they're about to quit, do not quit, because
No.
if you do, you're not going to get that opportunity. Vin Diesel went to so many auditions, and because dude is biracial, he didn't get those opportunities because for some reason casting directors were so unsure of that. I'm not entirely sure
I
why.
mean, it's
but
similar like when they wanted to cast Arnold Schwarzenegger because he was Austrian.
hold on. Like, here's the thing. Instead of quitting, Diesel's mom and stepdad gave him a book on how to make movies on a low budget. And what did he do? He made Multifacial, a movie about his audition process. And what happened? He sent it out to film festivals. A certain director who, I'm not sure if you've heard of him, his name is Steven Spielberg, saw the short and put him in Saving Private Ryan. And that's what jump-started his career. So don't just audition, create your own stuff, show people what you are all about. Lin-Manuel Miranda spends 7 years at one Broadway musical at a time. You think he just nailed every song and every character just in first draft? No, this stuff takes time. And I think the other problem is people are so upset with the position that we're in, is that they're feeling like, whoa, this has to happen now. And it's just like, whoa, we want it to happen
Okay,
now.
so what are you doing to change that?
Exactly.
And I mean, we've been casting for a project I'm shooting in July. That should be pretty good. And we got so many great auditions. We got so many diverse people. I said, you know what? We're working with them all. Screw it. We're going to hire them all in different projects. We're going to put one in the project, and the rest, if they want to work with us, if they want to tell stories, if they want my years of film school, anything they want, they got it. That's my deal. Free of charge. That's what we're doing.
Is that part of that plan that you told me about, or?
Yeah, I just feel like
okay.
People should get opportunities. And when we get 10 talented people that apply for a job that all are different in every way, that are very talented, darn right I'm going to try to work with them all. I want to give them the shot they can deserve. And like, I don't know why people don't just be like, okay, you know what? Let's work with you. Let's get you doing this. Let's get you doing this. You want to tell a story? How can we help you tell that story? Let's help you write a script. You want to learn camera? Let's help you learn camera. Like, why can't people do that? I wanted more diverse voices. I'm making that happen. I decided, you know what? We're going to hire everybody in certain capacities. So
I'm curious to see how that plays out, but I'm looking forward to seeing that.
I've already got a couple of the people that, you know, didn't quite make the audition, you know. I'm like, oh, you want to tell this story? Great. Let's help you write a script so we can get you financing so you can go make that film. Maybe I don't even work on it, but you got the opportunity to go make that happen. Someone's like, oh, I want to act in this. I've got a script for you. Great. A short that can jump. You know, you never know what's going to happen. At this point, just got to believe that people can do it and have some faith in them. That's all you can do. Right. They want to do it. They have the passion. They have the fire. Let them do it. Let them create. Give them the tools to do that.
If only there were more... If only the Canadian Film Board and other stuff actually did this as often as they could. I
mean, the interview process is also terrible because they sort of tell you to read a script and they never give you any feedback and they never ask you how you are. They're just like, hi, all right, read line 2. Like, that's pretty much the interview process. And then they don't tell you if you don't got it, they don't tell you why you didn't get it. They don't tell you anything. They don't give you a thank you. They just say, sorry, nothing, bye.
Yeah, some feedback would at least give the opportunity for actors to improve upon what they already have.
And when we did the interview process, we said, hey, this is what we liked about your audition. This is what we think you can improve on. We think you did really good here. We think you could improve on this. Let's try that line again. Maybe you can do better so we can see you in a better light. And people are like, you're giving us feedback? I'm like, yeah. They're like, no one does that. I'm like, no. People don't do that. We want to do that because we want you to get better for your next audition. Maybe this is not the role for you, but maybe you nail the next audition. And then we gave people callbacks that we thought had potential that did a bad audition because we want to see what they can do. We didn't feel like they had their full potential. And we had a callback yesterday. Let me tell you, someone came and did a decent audition. And I thought, okay, it's really good. You know, I like that. And then they came back and they wowed us because they put in the work, they put in the time, and they nailed the character. And I'm like, we gave you feedback, you followed it. What more can any director want? Like, oh, but we still got more auditions, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm like, you have to give people feedback. You have to be able to do that. And when we were putting for the audition, we put a
Here's my question to you, though. Do you think people not give feedback just because they want to see what the actor can do on their own?
But I don't see why you can't give feedback at the end of the audition.
No. I'm not defending that.
Oh, yeah, no, they want to see, they give an
actor
a scene, they tell them to read the scene, and then at the end of it, you should give feedback because you've seen what they can do and you want to help them improve going forward. But people don't do that. I mean, I have so
I
many.
get that. I get that there are a lot of I get that there are a lot of directors who feel as if it's the actor doing everything, but at the same time, you are there to give them everything they can't.
Yeah, and this is the thing. This is why I give props to Jay Burchwell here. If you can't act, you shouldn't direct. No one says you have to be the world's best actor, but you have to have acting experience to tell them what to do. Because if you just direct and you've never acted in your life, how are you supposed to tell people how to do it? It's like if I said, Tyler, fix a car. You've never fixed a car. You're like, yeah, I got this. You're not going to fix my car right. You got to have a little bit of experience. If I'm a director and I don't know how to use the camera and I just tell someone I want this shot and I don't have that experience, why am I directing? You have to understand everything on set, and you have to understand the number one thing a director can do is you bring the attitude to your set. You bring the attitude to your auditions. If you give no feedback, your set's probably going to be a miserable place because people don't want to have fun. You've got to be able to give feedback and be honest. Honesty is the one thing they're lacking. And I honestly want to work with people. And if anyone sees this video and says, I want to create a story, please reach out. I'll help you. Anything you want to say, anything you want to put on the screen, anything you need to learn. I spent $9,000 on film school for 1 year to learn documentary filmmaking. And then all the other years, I am in debt from school, but I want to pass on my knowledge to people because it's not just about how well you can do it. It's about how well you can pass on to others. And that's what I love seeing with Jay here. I'm sure he learned on sets, right? He learned on all these things about how to direct and doing this and that. And he just took it and ran with it. And now he's teaching his producer from Goon to write a movie with him, which is the one we reviewed today, Random Acts of Violence. You have to pass on your knowledge and you have to be willing to have a good attitude. And whether we agree on things or not, Tyler, I love this show because we can have a conversation. And we're very off topic, I know, but I'm going to give Random.
Well, anyone who's still sticking with us after this should really come to expect that.
I'm going to give Random Acts of Violence a 4.5 out of 5. I think it was exactly what the director wanted. I don't think it's perfect by any means, but I think they literally executed their vision to perfection. The best.
Absolutely. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5 just because, again, some of the shots are a little sloppy. And even though this is Brewster's best performance, sometimes she doesn't have a lot going for her character, except for some dialogue that could be a little preachy sometimes, but that's really all I got in regards to complaints. It was a great movie. I did put it in my best of the year video, that montage that I had that was set to, that one section was set to Beyonce, and I was so amazed that worked.
Yeah, I love, the Christmas song was just perfect.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That was just, I love the contrast there. But yeah, great movie. If you have not seen Random Acts of Violence,
do it. It's on Crave.
Don't listen to us. Don't listen to the critics. Go and make your own damn mind up and feel what you think. Don't just let people put thoughts in your head.
Just go watch it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. But you watched a Canadian film and you supported Canadian filmmakers. And that's what Canada Day here is. We could have done.
And we're going to be more amazed that you are a Canadian watching a Canadian movie.
Yes,
like Americans watching Canadian shit. Yeah, there's no surprise to that for some reason.
So yeah, next week, as we discussed later in the show, look for Mandy and The Color Out of Space as a double feature. Oh my goodness. Let's light a cigarette off a burning, disembodied, on fire head. Let's go, Tyler.
I am definitely getting baked for both of these.
Oh,
movies.
100%. That's what you got to do. I got some alcohol in the fridge. I'm going to drink.
That might actually make it better because I liked Mandy the first time. I'm wondering if a second viewing is going to be better.
Also, one of the best posters we've seen in years. Like, that's such a crazy looking poster. The color scheme alone.
The pink on that did look great.
Yeah, I love both these movies. I own them. I've watched them multiple times, and I cannot wait to watch them again and break them down and talk about them because I love Nicolas Cage. I love him in Face Off. I like that. Leaving Las Vegas is great. I like.
I'm looking forward to watching Color Out of Space because I haven't actually seen that. An old friend. I say old friend of ours. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Josh. She did not dig Color Out of Space.
Why not?
For whatever reason, I don't know. She wasn't that specific. And for whatever reason, I listened to her on that one.
Well, if you don't like a movie, that's fine. But you got to be specific on why you don't like it without spoiling it.
That's never been her strong suit.
Because I mean, I don't like certain films, and I'll tell you exactly why. You know why I don't like Forrest Gump? Because it's betrayal of a certain character, and I have some of my family like that. And I'll be very specific about that. So, you got to be specific. But I'm excited and pumped up to watch Color Out of Space again. Me and my wife have watched this 4 times, and she hates this movie every time. So I'm watching this alone. And Mandy, I cannot wait to show her whatever Mandy is. I love Nicolas Cage in these things. Like Face Off is insane. I like.
I guess you better pull the trigger because I don't give a fuck. I'm ready.
Like Nicolas Cage and Vampire's Kiss is probably my favorite Nicolas Cage. Like that A, B, C. I love that. Just
I'm a vampire.
Broken Arrow with Christian Slater. Oh, that's John Travolta. Never mind. That's another guilty pleasure of.
Oh, Broken Arrow, right?
That's a crazy movie about storing nuclear weapons in the desert near the Grand Canyon. I love crappy movies, and these ones are really good movies. They know exactly what they are. They own it, and they still tell us.
That reminds me, we still never got around to that Willy's Wonderland thing that he did.
Oh, I want to see that. We got to figure out where that is, and we'll watch it in the future days or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I will watch that. I mean, if it's like 5 nights.
We might have to put that in the movies we've missed in 2021 thing.
Yeah, I think I got to see that movie. I haven't really seen any movies this year.
No, I watched 2 movies. Fucking driving me crazy.
Yeah, I watched Quiet Place Part 2. We potentially are seeing Nobody.
Assuming the universe wants us to, because the first time the government shut down, and the weather is great out right now. I have no idea.
I saw Ray and the Last Dragon, which I thought was really cute, but not going to make my top 10 list. Really nice movie, but
Luca might
on my list.
It's predictable as hell. Don't get me wrong, but it just gives you so many good vibes.
He looks happy. That's what I like about it. I think getting a positive movie in 2021
it's Pixar meets Studio Ghibli in some aspects, but it's so positive.
Well, funny you should mention that because I'm probably going to go watch that after this. I was going to make lunch and watch Luca because that was my day.
That would be worth it.
But yeah, 2020. And then I there's a whole bunch I want to see, but will we see them? Yeah, I mean, hopefully, we get to see a lot of movies this year. But if we don't, we at least saw Quiet Place Part 2, right, Tyler?
Yep, and that part was totally worth it.
I enjoyed it, but like you love that movie. If you haven't seen Tyler's review,
you guys knew that. You knew that was going to happen.
It's like,
but yeah, you can check out my reviews of A Quiet Place and Luca in the description below. My 2 favorite movies of the year thus far. They gave me so much. I mean, that part goes without saying. But still.
Yeah, and great flicks. Check out those. I'm looking forward to Luca because I've been trying to appreciate animation, and I think I will appreciate this because it looks
I haven't appreciated.
Call Me by Your Name and Ponyo and put them together.
Very similar too, and a little bit of Porco Rosso in there as well.
What's that film?
That's the one where Michael Keaton is the pilot that has a pig's head.
Oh, yeah.
You haven't seen that one, have you?
I didn't get a chance to watch
that one. That's a good one. It stands out.
I will go find that movie.
It stands out in a way. And if you do watch the English dub, Michael Keaton has this Humphrey Bogart type of delivery to the character. And you also get to listen to Carrie Elways be a Severn American pilot.
Carrie Elways has aged poorly, but I like him. He's just lost all his hair immediately.
Only his face.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, but yeah.
And his decision to be Black Christmas.
Great show, Tyler. Thanks for watching, everyone. And we'll see you next week for the Cage Rage. Say something awesome, Tyler.
I'm a vampire. I'm a vampire. I'm a vampire.
I got to press the stop button.